Poe and Dean. Hello and welcome to this week's episode of the Filmmakers Podcast. This is a podcast where we talk
filmmaking,
from indie film to studio films to high-end TV to documentaries and
award season films and everything in between.
how to get them made, how to make them, and how to try not to
royally F them up.
In our very, very humble opinion. Welcome back to the show. Welcome to 2026, officially with myself and Dom introducing an episode. How are you, Dom? You all right?
Pretty good. I'm just surviving the rain. It's been, on a scale of 1 to rainy, pretty rainy.
It's been pretty rainy. Well, let's talk about today's guest, because we have an amazing guest on with us. A director whose career is the definition of persistence and vision. It is Hikari. She is a writer, director and producer, and you'll probably know her from some of the best TV in the last few years, because she set the tone for the absolute phenomenon that was Netflix's Beef. She also directed the pilot and key episodes. She also directed episodes of Michael Mann's Tokyo Vice, proving she can handle high-stakes stylish noir. But today, Dom sat down to chat with her to talk about incredible new film, Rental Family. Dom, What do you and Hikari chat about?
You know, I actually thought that the film title was called Hikari, because I just read the interview.
You were like, I don't know
request
this
at the start. So, although I am aware her name is Hikari, every time I think of Hikari, I think of the movie rather than.
You were like, where's this award-winning film?
Yeah.
Hikari.
To be honest, it's a good name for a film. It's a
great name.
Feels like, I don't know, it's punchy, it's Japanese. I like it.
I do
Rental
too.
Family is also a great name, to be fair.
Rental Family is a good name, a good town. It stars legend Brendan Fraser. His first role back since The Whale. Yeah, it's a good. So, all right. So, once you'd got the name of the person you were interviewing correctly, what did you chat about?
We had a lovely chat. It was. I mean, look, I think it's a really touching, lovely film. And I've always thought that films that cover multi-generations are often the most profound, because you really get to see like the journey through life. You get to see how kids see the world, how they interact, and how parents manage them. And then the sort of the other end of the spectrum, when people get old and they can't do things that they used to, and they're looking back on their lives and their memories, and it sort of manages to be poignant at both ends of the spectrum. And with Brendan Fraser as the kind of grounding rod that cements it all together in the middle.
Yeah, which is pretty amazing. Yeah, so you're going to dive into talking about how she made that.
Yes.
I imagine you're going to talk about...
Stuff.
A minute. Stuff.
We talked about...
Her journey. Because she was a stunt extra before she became an award-winning director, which is pretty incredible. And look, it's an incredible visual language she brought to Beef, and also working with Michael Mann. We
also talked about theatre, if I remember, which kind of works it very nicely into the background of the fantastic Akira Emoto, who plays the older gentleman, and his fantastic kind of looking back on his theatre days. And I mean, I think it's what I really liked about this film is that she brings to light a really interesting cultural phenomenon that really shines a light on Japan's world and how they see things and their culture, and it's very nicely linked with its sort of three storylines.
Yeah, and it's getting Oscar buzz as well for its screenplay and Brendan Fraser's performance.
So it should.
Yeah, and so it should. It's already won the Audience Award at the Middleburg Film Festival. It's basically, the story is a down on his luck American actor, which is Brendan Fraser. He's living in Tokyo and he decides to take a job, an acting job, at a Japanese rental family company where he's hired to play different roles in people's lives, like a father, a boyfriend, or a mourner. And obviously things change. So yeah, wonderful. Well, let's get to the episode. And at the other side of it, myself and Dom are going to do Topic of the Week. And because Hikari is getting so much Oscar buzz, how about, Dom, we do an awards special chat afterwards?
How about that? Yes.
How about that? Excellent. All right. So for now, though, this is Dom Lenoir chatting to director, writer and producer Hikari, all about how she started, how she got her career going, how she created Beef, how she worked with Michael Mann, even though you might not mention that, theatre you mentioned, and mainly about Rental Family, her latest film, which is out now. Sit back, relax, and enjoy.
Hi, Hikari. How are you doing?
I'm good. How are you, Dom?
Very good, very good.
Yeah.
I absolutely loved your movie.
Thank you.
It's such a beautiful, life-affirming story. I mean, it covers. I mean, I always think like when people get older, and also the sort of the wonderful innocence of childhood as well. Like you sort of cover both elements so well. It's like the full sort of spectrum of life. What was the sort of genesis of making this story and how it all sort of came about for you?
Sure. Well, I didn't know anything about rental family business until my co-writer brought this to my attention. And I'm Japanese, and I was like, "What is this? Like, why this business even exist?" You know. And as we both really dug into start learning about the business and why this business exists, what kind of people use, there's a little bit more things that I didn't know much about. I mean, Japanese culture, I left Japan in such a young age, so I didn't quite know how it was. But there's a lot of, there's an epidemic of loneliness, right? There's people who are feeling so isolated in a city like Tokyo. But then shortly after, pandemic happened, and we're in a place where we didn't know where we were going, right? And the kind of like the fear that it was creating, was surrounding us, really made me feel like we need to write a story about connecting people and and then also like connecting human being and then also discovering like individuals who exist in the city and how can we bring those people together. And I felt like a rental family idea was just like a kind of like a perfect way to get into that, the world of connectivity. Yeah.
It definitely feels like it really sort of targets those areas in a really unusual and interesting way that we haven't seen before. Yeah. And I think also something that I found really interesting in the way the story is told and how you've sort of covered these journeys is that there's these very complicated, messy situations. Like Akira's character looking back on his past, it's not like simple things. There's things that he sort of hides from his family. And that whole situation with Shannon, that traditional family role sort of turned up on its head. I mean, how do you sort of approach those kinds of themes? Was that like a key interest of yours in like what connected you to it?
So there's a lot of different characters that we were exploring while we were, in the writing process. Is it, the girl daughter versus son? What does that look like? And if it's like, if the Kira's character was an actor, what does that look like? Right. So as we're exploring, we kind of paid attention was like, if Philip were to able to live the life that he hasn't had, what would that look like? And, he had, it's not in the movie, but perhaps we talked about him having a girlfriend who already moved on and have her, new family, that he kind of missed the opportunity to become a husband and a father. And then to, for who Philip is, he doesn't have a father figure, or he did. But they're stranded. They had this stranded relationship. So Akira's character became kind of like a father figure. So based on that, just kind of looking into what the actor, basically like Akira's character like that, who's an actor, if Philip were to. That's something that perhaps I think as an artist, we always think about, like, what if we had this bright past, bright, history in the past, but then when we start losing, what does that look like? Where can we take as an artist, like where the fear goes to, how far can we go? was just like a little bit of everything that we just kind of start putting into together, and then also kind of examining of like what the relationship the father, Kikuo's character, had with the daughter. He wasn't around much when she was young, yet she's still, even though they fight all the time, there's still love that she wants to make sure that he's being respected, and he knows that he feels that he's not forgotten, and that's kind of like a way for her to show the love that he has, and she has love and respect to her own father. um and so it was kind of like putting everything together from a different perspective, and then we just made kind of I guess we started very complicated, and I just kind of made it into a more simplified version, and but then also kind of looking at a Japanese society, right? Being a single parent, how difficult is it for a single parent to go into put the kid into a private school? What does that look like? And how some people are treated in Japan. Is that a right thing? Do you really actually have to have both parents to get into school, right? Things like that. I just kind of question myself, and then also something that perhaps the school system could look into. They should probably question themselves if that's the way they're going to. Because everybody needs to be treated equally. So there's a little bit of ideas and little bit of things that I really wanted to discuss in perhaps in a place like this. What is the right thing for everybody? Yeah.
Yeah,
Something like
I mean,
kinda
there's so many themes when you think about it. There's the loneliness, as we mentioned. There's the family dynamic and what that looks like, and how that doesn't always, work in the normal way. There's
yeah.
looking back on your life, and there is all these societal things, which the rental family and the school system, which I found really fascinating. Not sort of knowing the culture as well. So what was the actual process once this is the idea, this is going to be based around rental family, versus sort of coming up with those ideas versus like how you start to write the first draft and the development process and the co-writing and those kinds of processes?
Sure. For us, we basically started writing all kinds of scenarios. What if Philip was an actor? We started from that. What if he was an English teacher, right? Because when we were looking at, my co-writer Stephen was looking at a random job for American person to do in Tokyo, there was English teacher, a translator, a guy who works in a butler cafe, right? Or a rental family business. So we kind of looked at a lot of scenarios to see where Philip could go and what would be the most interesting way, Winsuke's journey that Philip can take. But then being an actor was the part that we felt most authentic, because how can besides being an English teacher, how can we bring one person from America suddenly to live in Japan? That was also kind of like putting the person into this a culture that it has nothing to do with or completely opposite of American culture. What does that look like? And then also kind of based on my life experience as being an exchange student as a teenager, living in a country or city where I was the only person in the room, and what that looked like if you were to put that in Japan. But essentially, it really was the relationship that I had experienced. I created, I had this wonderful group of friends who now, even to this day, I call them my family, that I'm still very close to. So I wanted the Philip story to get to that point. And so there's that little bit of hope in the end, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, there is. It definitely feels like a sort of feel good, and yeah, there's a nice catharsis, and there is a lot of hope, certainly. And I really like the fact that it does. To me, it feels like a really personal film. It doesn't feel like sort of manufactured. It feels like there's a lot of truth and like heartfelt sort of situations. Something I really liked that you said a minute ago, which I feel like maybe this is something you do in general as a director, is what if? Is that a way that you
Mm.
is that where you keep yourself open in terms of like ideas before you decide on something? Does that sort of affect your work in all senses? It feels like very absorbing and flexible.
Yeah, thank you for that question. I think it's important for any artist to just figure out, like, I mean, don't take me wrong. Like, some people has a brilliant idea and they just go with it, right? And you just
Mm.
build a story from it. For this one particular, because the business itself is so, basically you can rent anybody. Like, you can come up with any scenarios. I really wanted to make sure that we as a writer will explore all that. And then build the story around it. And also, we were writing a story during the pandemic, and is that are we making a comedy? Are we making dramatic, right? Piece. And then the Philip character. What if the Philip was the one who was renting instead of becoming a renter, right?
Mm.
Yeah. And so what does that look like, and how that story would evolve, and what kind of tone the movie is going to or develop into. And what we discovered during that what if session, if he were somebody to rent, we felt it will definitely become a little bit on the darker side in a way. Depicting obviously depression and all that stuff. And it wasn't a bad idea. I really liked it, but I kind of wanted to flip the idea so that the story expands a little bit more. You can both see both sides of the businesses, and again, renter and rentee. And yeah, I think the discovery that we found through Philip's journey as well was kind of something that we also felt was the right move to have Philip go from not knowing not much about anything to become who he become at the end of the movie because of the business.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, that's a great way that it sort of all connects together and informs the way that the story kind of unfolds, I guess. Just talking a little bit about Shannon and Brendan. She's fantastic. I work at a film school as well, and we work with kids.
Oh wow! Awesome.
She's an amazing actress,
Yeah.
and works so well with Brendan and
Right.
all the other sort of supporting cast.
Yeah.
How do you? Do you have any tips for working with younger actors, and how that dynamic worked in getting like that really nice sort of spontaneous magic?
So, this movie is her first project she ever acted before.
That's amazing.
Yeah, and so she definitely have a natural talent. We got to audition a lot of wonderful kids, and they all brought so many different type of Mia. I would say I love working with kids just because they come from such a pure place, right? No, there's no hiding nothing, especially if they never really done it before. There's a really professional children too that I'm like, oh my God, you're more professional than I am.
Yeah.
But I think for me, the kids, especially for the first time, what I told her was to not practice too much, but memorize the lines, right? Memorize as much as you can so that words come out of you naturally, and then just listen. Listen to what the other person have to say, and just really pay attention, and don't rush it. And take the moment all you need. This is something I always talk to the actors. Take moment you need. That's really was it. Like, don't take acting classes.
Yeah.
Because you're
Well,
perfect the way you are.
Yeah, well, that's. I suppose that's why I think the younger and the older actors both have such interesting things to add in general. Because the younger actors, they don't have all that overthinking that adults have. Like once they're in it, their imagination just takes over. And then with the older actors, they've got this huge wealth of life experience that it's like this tapestry to sort of draw on. So I mean, how did you sort of fill the rest of the cast, like Brendan, Akira? Like, how did that sort of process work?
Sure. Akira is legendary actor in Japan, as
Yeah.
you know. So for me, I mean, Akira-san, he would say like yes in Japanese, and he can say yes 1,000 ways and means 1,000 different ways, right? And so for me, we did a lot of improvisation. Like
Okay.
like the part when he talks about jazz, like, flow and all that stuff. A first take was he would, do how he would say normally. But then what if you show that with physicality? What if something that he used to do in his theater? Let's play that. How's that look like? So we played a lot of those with Akira-san. And there's a lot of, that was great. Let's try this, and completely different, taken to 300, like 180 degree physicality wise. Whereas Mari, she's very intellectual. So we talked a lot about the backstory, and her character, Aiko's character, actually has a very challenging past. Perhaps there's a little bit of sexual abuse, through entertainment industry in Japan that quite happens a lot. So we talked a lot about her upbringing, how she is to people, not just people she encounter every day, but also how much time, the thoughts she put into for the clients, right? All these little details. And then Takehiro is somebody who's just kind of like, okay, I get it. So we just a little bit more playful, and then Brendan Fraser, who's naturally a talent, he's a star. He understood who Philip was, from everything that he experienced in his lifetime. And so for him, it was like, he'll do the first take and we'll just keep changing a little bit and here and there. And he literally give you, if 3 takes, 3 completely different performance.
Right. Yeah.
Right.
Nice.
So that you can actually make a most dramatic scene, or you can make most comedy scene if you want to. And so that was really fun to play around in edit as well.
Well, I suppose it sounds like your approach is a lot of the time, rather than overworking what's there in the script, it's like finding the spontaneity maybe, and finding different ways of approaching things that kind of bring freshness, and also a lot of collaboration from the actors as well.
Yeah. I think it's, when I used to act, or, when I was part of doing, in front of the camera on stage, I liked the freedom of performing arts. And now I don't even try to act, to be honest with you. Like, there's so many great actors out there. I don't need to act. But I feel they bring such a authenticity to whatever they learned about, studied, and whatever they came up with, to play this character. And I want to lean on that. I want to respect. And I think there's a specific scenes that I have to say, well, that was great, but this is the scene is about. And I have to stick with my original idea. Yeah. But for the most part, I feel I like to let the artists do their work. I think same thing with music. We had a composer, Yonsei and Alex Summers, to do the music. Let them be the artist, and let's bring their talent to the table. And then at that point, we can collaborate and make it even better, because everybody surprised you, sometimes. And then it's just like, wow, that was a magic. And let's keep creating that.
Yeah.
I think it just becomes bigger.
I think we've got to wrap up there, but just one very quick bit of advice maybe that you've learned from this movie specifically, just for our filmmaking audience.
Oh, wow. Well, I would say this movie was very heavily bilingual, right? Piece is very 50-50, I would say, if not 55-65, that level. When the language collides, there's 2 languages happens at the same time. There's a lot of confusions that happens, but you'll have to, as a director, you always have to remember what the character is going through emotionally as far as the journey goes. And then you can find a beautiful balance, even though they're speaking different languages, even though actors don't speak the actual languages, you can find a beautiful balance in that.
Lovely.
Yeah. Thank you.
There we have it. That was Dom chatting with Hikari.
It was another guest where, you know, when the time's up on the interview and the guest looks horrified in the right way, that they're like, oh no, it can't be over. I was having such a lovely time chatting. And we do get that a lot because we ask questions on the, not to blow our, well, yeah, we are blowing our own trumpet, but
sure, why not?
we do ask questions that the filmmakers are. It's the kind of reasons why they got into making the films. It's not just the sound bites. It's like the thing that sort of drives them and that they want to get off their chest about the highs and the lows of making the films. And when you have that nice connection and you're supporting a good honest film like this that's telling meaningful stories and hopefully spreading a bit of joy into the world, it's very nice to have a guest that enjoys the experience as much as we do.
Oh, I love that. Yeah, it's beautiful. She's it's quite interesting, her journey as well. I know we talked about it a bit on the pod you did. You know, the fact that she went from a short film, which was a USC sort of thesis film, which really launched her. You know, she got into over 100 film festivals, won 50 awards. It's kind of like how a festival darling short film can launch a career, because it really can. It was, about 8 years later, she made her indie debut with 37 seconds. So it does take time, but her short film's a huge calling card. And then obviously after 37 seconds, she's been doing Beef and Tokyo Vice before Rental Family. So she's been getting the buzz. And speaking of buzz, Rental Family is getting the Oscar buzz, so it is perfect for us to talk about the Oscars, the awards season. Everything is happening right now, and obviously this Filmmakers podcast, we do get a lot of those guests on, which is amazing for us now. But it's a perfect time.
And for them.
Don brought this up, and for them, very much for them. They love it. A brilliant chat with Nia DaCosta the other day, the director of 28 years later, Bone Temple, saying she loved the interview, had a great time with us. Yeah,
best of the day, she said. And
best of the day.
We say who else was on the roster that day.
No, we won't. But you are listening.
But it's a big hitters.
Oh dear. No, I think hopefully you, lovely listener, do also get quite a lot out of these podcasts and about us and what we're saying, and you can learn from this, because that's what it's about. It really is this. Me and Dom learn as well, and we get so much out of this, but hopefully you do.
Not as much as you'd think.
No.
But we have a nice time, don't we?
But we have a nice time chatting to lovely, lovely people. Well, look, the topic of the week this week, we've not done it. This is the first one in 2026 awards season. So, runners and riders, who are the people that are making a dent? Who are the people who are going to slip by the wayside? Who are our dark horses who are going to slide in through? So, what's your favourites, Dom? Because obviously,
okay,
go on.
Let me get the list out.
Okay, get your list out. Well, because
I'm not doing a top 10 yet. That's going to be on the podcast.
That's crazy. That's crazy. What do you mean that's going on the podcast? You mean that's going online? Is that what you mean? You're going to put it on the socials? I like that.
No. Well, I'll do my podcast roundup of my favourites.
Oscar suggestions.
I've got one or two to still watch, unfortunately, before I can really finish my list. But some of the ones I've really enjoyed. Number one, very underrated, and I'm very surprised that it hasn't got as much love as its other brother film, is The Smashing Machine.
It hasn't.
I thought it was a really good film. I thought it captured the era very nicely. I thought The Rock did a very, 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 very good performance. And I thought it was quite tight narratively. I think that deserved more interest than it has got so far. So that was one that's been kicking around in my brain. Other ones I've enjoyed, but I wouldn't necessarily... Not necessarily my favorites, but I really enjoyed. Nuremberg, Jay Kelly.
Yeah.
What was the other one? And I don't know, I can't remember which season the Ari Aster film Eddington was, but I thought that was actually very interesting. And I think that was another one that sort of deserved a bit more praise for what it did. I also thoroughly enjoyed Relay, That was like my.
Oh, Relay was great. Yeah.
I mean, it's not. It's more in the popcorn than the sort of traditional Oscar fare. But
I don't think it's going to
of,
be in the awards. I don't think it's going to be in the running.
But
sadly,
as my out and out sort of thriller special, that was definitely a real favourite of mine.
Nice. Well, we're just before you go, just reel off your list. We have just obviously Golden Globes the other night. BAFTAs are coming up in February, so that's a couple of weeks away, and then the Oscars are in March. Obviously, there's loads between then and now. There's Menti and Ment. There's a lot, but there are runners and rides. There are a lots in the award season. Maybe we should do Best Picture first. Let's just go through it that way in terms of what we think is going to win the Oscar. Should I run through the heavyweights, and then you can sort of dive in with a few of your opinions. Okay. Yes. And first of all, before we get there, Dom, how do we feel about awards?
My overall beef with award season is
nice.
I think
Link back to Hikari there. Very good.
Yeah, I thought you might enjoy that one. My overall thing is I feel like films are generally judged, especially in the sort of the Oscars and the BAFTAs, a lot of the time the most original, inverted commas, attempt seems to get a lot of the praise. Sometimes that aligns with the best movie, sometimes it doesn't, and sometimes it's like, okay, this is the theme that we're sort of interested in really championing this year, and then that gets a little bit more of a nod. So I think sometimes I get frustrated as a filmmaker, because I think that the films that really leave you thinking and hit you emotionally, and you're years later you still remember vividly what the film's message and its performances were, those are the ones that I think deserve more love in the award season races.
Yeah, but as we were sort of discussing the other day, it does come down to money and how much money people can put into getting these films seen and out there. And
yes, that's also
and
true,
getting it to the people who do vote for these awards as well, which isn't you and me at the moment. I was on the BIFA panel this year, so I did vote for the BIFA films, but I'm not on the BAFTA. I was, but me and you are not on the BAFTAs. We're not on the Oscars. We're not the people who are
not
actually
yet.
No, not yet. But perhaps we will be soon. And it is quite interesting how it works, and it is interesting. I think it's wonderful for film in general. I often don't think the best films necessary that we would choose win, but it's a big celebration. Obviously, the Oscars have dipped in the years, so of a lot of these award ceremonies, but they do rise back up again. They do come back up, and I think it's important that indie filmmakers do get seen at these things, and they always do. There's always a film that does squeeze through, and I think we're going to come to that in a minute. But if you take the Golden Globes, for example, you look at Adolescence and you look at what has happened with that TV series and how it has blown up, whether it deserves the full praise or not is open for massive discussion. I mean, I think it's fantastic, but it's been over a year and it's still getting the buzz and interest, and I think that is only good for independent film, independent TV in what we can do. So all right, that's sort of our opinion on it. I love them. I think awards are great. I stay up and watch the Oscars every year. I think it's super silly and stupid, and you kind of know who's going to win, but also there's always something fun that happens.
I do like the sweepstakes where you do the quiz. Maybe we should do it. Maybe we should do that this year. We do a little funny, quizzy
funny
thing.
Live. We could do a live
quiz or me timbers where we all.
Anyone fancy that? Sitting with us and doing a live?
Yeah, we just have to maybe exclude Stephen Follows and Phil because
they're too good. They always win. I don't mind losing. Do you know what I mean? No. It only makes you stronger and it makes you a better fililmmaker, Dom.
Yeah.
Those disappointments and losses.
I think there's an inverse chart with winning and fun as well, as I might have mentioned before.
Yeah, that's true. But also, like say, the amount of times we do fail as filmmakers only then makes us better as filmmakers. Yeah. And I think you should apply that to your quizzing as well.
Yeah, so I'm the best, basically.
Yeah,
I'm the most learned.
You're the most learned out of them. Okay, so let's get to it. The Oscar heavyweights for Best Picture, the front runners. Last couple of years it sort of had that Oppenheimer energy versus the holdovers Heart. But this year I don't feel we have a single sort of juggernaut sweeping everything like Oppenheimer did previously. Which makes it exciting.
I think there's two. I think there's two that are like knocking everyone around the boxing ring.
So
I think. Yeah.
Well, okay. Obviously, one is one battle after another.
Yeah.
Right, that's going to do it. It's big,
Yeah.
it's expensive, and it stars DiCaprio, and the Academy loves Paul Thomas Anderson. But he has never won Best Picture, so the narrative here is it's his time, and it's kind of has the scale of a blockbuster, but also the prestige of a kind of art indie film. So one battle after another. What's the other one?
I think Marty Supreme. I think they are the two that have been talked about most.
It just depends on.
I'm not saying these are the ones that I would put as my absolute number one. But I think those two possibly are two of the biggest ones. The other one in that race, especially for the Oscars, that I really like is Train Dreams, which I think I think for me is a kind of the perfect balance of kind of interesting filmmaking, but really nice, like brilliant performances and subtle kind of, I don't know, subtle heavy drama.
I agree. I think it's beautiful.
Yeah.
I just don't think it will have the the puff. I was going to say it's come off the rails a little bit, to put a train pun in there, because it's sometimes these things have to be at the right time. And I think Marty Supreme, like I say, I do agree, is right. I think definitely Timmy is be unlikely if he doesn't. Timmy Chalamet doesn't. Either win or certainly be right there. I think the other one, and the one that might sneak in for Best Picture, is Hamnet. Obviously, that's based on the massive best-selling book, and it's directed by a former winner, Chloe Zhao. It stars Paul Mescal and Jessie Buckley, who I again think is going to be massively in there for the award for Best Actress. And it hits the sort of British-Irish sweet spot for BAFTA voters perfectly. So I think it definitely will get the BAFTA.
That's one that I unfortunately haven't seen yet, but judging by what it is, probably would be in my very favourite sort of list automatically, because it just looks like a brilliant sort of hard-hitting drama. And you know, what I really like about Hamnet is just Jessie Buckley and Paul are like these two like very lovable characters, and they just seem like very authentic, and they seem very against what the Hollywood machine is. You know, just two nice people that are like really just working hard, and I don't know, they've got a really like nice do-gooder sort of vibe about them, which kind of mirrors what the film's about. And I don't know, that really sways me, and I think, well, that's nice. I hope they do get recognition, because they're both brilliant actors, but they also seem very genuine.
Yeah, I agree. I've met Jessie. She was singing at the Black Deer festival, which was a country music festival, and I met her, interviewed her there for something else, filming it, and she was really great. She was really good, and her career trajectory has been incredible, as has Paul's, but where she came from is pretty impressive and what she's doing. And also a friend of the podcast, Liza Marshall, has been on talking about making TV, and suddenly, you know, and she was saying how it was difficult at the time, struggling to get films made, and now she's blown up. You know, Hamnet is the next sort of feature she's made, and look how that's done. So, congratulations, Liza. She's pretty incredible.
Yeah.
So,
and
all thanks
the
other one, I
Filmmakers
think,
Podcast.
Yes, and it's all thanks to us. She learned so much. The other one, I think, for Best Picture is going to be Sinners.
Yes, yeah. That for me is the dark horse. That's the dark horse one for me. I mean, again, I'm watching. I'm probably going to watch that one tonight. I've seen little bits of it. It looks really, really interesting. I think it might sneak in with. A big award that no one's expecting, but I don't know. But because of the sort of the genre that it crosses into, I don't think it's going to get as much love as possibly some of the other ones that we discussed.
But I think it'll be nominated. Horror sadly rarely wins, but this isn't just horror, it's a period piece, isn't it? You know, it's about America, it's about, and that social commentary is the kind of thing that BAFTA loves, and the Academy. And I think it might have done better at the Globes, and therefore that would have given it more of a chance. But anyway, I think for me, the dark horse
the other dark horse
is the Chronology of Water.
Very much so.
Kristen Stewart's film, because we both love it. We both think it's amazing. Obviously, Kristen has been on the podcast with Imogen Poots, and I'm kind of gutted that it hasn't had more love so far.
Yes, and you know what, that to me is a bit surprising, because I think that film is It's on the one hand, for me, it feels very, very like a very original, not experimental, but like it's definitely like very strong directorial choices. And it's not a film that you've seen before. And at the same time, there's a very grounding, very relatable performance and storyline that I think is really moving. So I feel like it has the two elements that should make a contender, which is memorable, affecting, and original. And it does deserve
and debut
a bit
movie.
Yeah.
A debut movie as well. Look, I mean, look, it's unlikely to win Best Picture just because of how it is and the money that needs to go behind these things. But an Oscar nomination would be really cool. And I feel if it gets a SAG Ensemble nod, I do think it becomes a threat. It might be that dark horse that sneaks up. I really hope so anyway.
Why is Imogen getting more love as well?
That's what I think. That's what I mean. I don't understand. It's an amazing performance.
Yeah.
Why is Imogen Poots not getting lots of love for this film?
Justice for Imogen.
Justice for Ims.
Hashtag.
Let's say that off.
One more then. There's only one more in my sort of. I think. Well, actually, no. To be fair, there's a couple. There's two more that I am surprised haven't got a little bit more love. One is Goodbye, Kate, which I think it's Kate Winslet's directorial debut, and there's little moments when there's bits of schmaltziness and there's bits of goes sort of far in a direction, but overall as a family dynamic film it really covers some heavy ground, and I don't think there was a dry eye in the audience. Again, I don't think it's going to be a Best Picture winner, but I think it deserves a little bit more credit than it's been given so far.
Well, it might pick up some BAFTA love.
I hope so.
Being British, and it's Kate Winslet, and we love Kate Winslet.
We do.
Okay, and what's your other one?
And the other one, sorry, there's two more.
Just read them out, Dom. Read your list.
The other one I thought was that's almost had I don't understand why it hasn't had more love, which I saw in TIFF, was Tuna, not the fish. Leo Woodall, with his performance, is staggeringly good, and it is a bit of a thriller, but at the same time, it really covers an incredible performance and discussion on people with hearing difficulties and how the sound design and the production of that is a phenomenal film. Like really,
it might pick up awards for sound design. There, we do have the director of Tuna coming on the podcast.
Yes, and it's a spectacular episode. Yeah,
yes, Dom's already recorded that one. That's great. Okay, and your other one?
Oh yeah, the last but not least, I Swear, which I think sort of fits into that King's Speech type bracket. It's just very down to earth. It's very good. It's very sort of unexpected. It's got loads of classic Scottish humour. And a lot of the people I know in the BAFTA circuit, it's their favourite. So yeah, I don't know. It should be really getting recognised as a classic standout indie.
Yeah, I think this would be really surprising if this doesn't do well at the BAFTAs. I'd be really surprised. And we're not just saying these ones because they are coming on the podcast, but I swear
these are our favourites. Yeah,
we're recording with them Wednesday and Thursday this week with the directors and producers of I Swear. So that's very exciting. We'll see what they have to say, and you will hear what they have to say. All right, let's move on to Best Director. I think Paul Thomas Anderson's a shoe-in. Chloe Zhao for Hamnet's shoe-in.
Yeah.
Hikari, why not? She's on this week's podcast. Why not for Rental Family? I don't see why it couldn't be. And then why don't we throw in Nia DaCosta as well for 28 years later, The Bone Temple is pretty amazing. It's unlikely she's going to win, the Horror Bias for one or also, but she could snag a BAFTA nomination for Best Director. Us Brits, we love supporting their own.
I mean, like my controversial opinion is that maybe the Best Director isn't the best film. Or not even the best film, but it's not the film that I enjoyed the most. But I think it should be down to who is literally like directing skill.
Of course.
Who's taken the most risks, who's done the most interesting thing. And out of the ones I've seen so far, or I've kind of looked at what they've done, I kind of think, again, Kristen Stewart, most original. PTA, like that, again, not my favourite film of the award season. I mean, it's not even in my top 5. But I think the actual moments in it are top tier filmmaking, and that kind of is what directing is about.
I agree with
some
you
of the
on that.
craft of it is like the best craft. Just it's staggeringly good.
It's staggeringly good craft is one part,
and maybe Sinners as well.
Absolutely staggering. Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so that's our directors. Obviously, there's others in there, and but I think Chloe Zhao's, Paul Thomas Anderson, they're our two leading horses there.
Yeah.
All right, so let's go actor. DiCaprio, a shoe in. Let's throw in Brendan Fraser for Rental Family. Why not?
Yeah. Let's have a look. Who are the other?
Well, we've got Paul Mescal for Hamlet, and the dark horse here, certainly for the BAFTAs, I think I would go with Jack O'Connell, 28 years later for The Bone Temple. He's having a little resurgence at the moment, is Jack O'Connell, in terms of the films he's been in, he's doing. And when you guys see 28 years later, it's spectacular. You could call it a caricature, but you only do a caricature if you do it well, and it's believable. And he's believable and scary as hell. It's like a Tom Hardy type performance. It's full on.
Yeah.
So who's yours?
Favorite actor?
Yeah.
I think Joel Edgerton's performance is very underrated. I think the Rock. I mean, again, I know he's not going to win, but I think from his base level performance that he's done in every other movie to what he did in The Smashing Machine, I think people should be taking The Rock's performance very seriously, because that is phenomenal as a transformation. But overall favorite, probably Joel Edgerton from Train Dreams. And it's a thankless task because it's not really a speaking role, but that's hard. It's really tough. And I think he deserves more credit than he's perhaps been given.
I think he will. I think it's one of these that if it starts picking up again for him, then the gravy train will start rolling out again and he'll be everywhere. But the buzz is not there. And when it's not there, he's kind of flogging that dead horse, and that's not good for the horse. Anyone else in your actors? Timmy, Two Meats, obviously.
Timmy's the obvious shoehorn. I think he'll probably get it, to be honest. I mean, he doesn't do a bad role, really. I think if DiCaprio's best supporting, because technically he is best supporting in that film, he would win. Specific head to head, if I had to pick, I might give Timmy the edge over DiCaprio on this one.
Yeah,
just because of the kind of performance that it is. It's got a bit more. How it's written, the kind of film that he inhabits. Like, I think there's a bit more nuance in who the character gets to be in Marty. That's just my take.
Okay, cool. All right, let's go for Best Actress.
Mm-hmm.
Who are you thinking?
I think it could be Buckley, potentially.
I think Jessie Buckley is a massive shoe-in for this, certainly for BAFTAs. I think Saoirse Ronan as well, for
good also.
Just generally just being amazing. If it works in the cycle for Blitz, I definitely think she's going to be something in there for the BAFTAs.
Blitz was last year's, though, wasn't it?
No, it's eligible for this year. I know. Okay. You could put Lady Gaga.
When it goes just over the bracket of, like, when people talk about it and it's released, then it gets lost in last year, unfortunately.
It does, There's Florence Pugh as well with her film We Live in Time, but also
but that is again. That in my mind is last year's season. Both so.
I know, but was it Die My Darling, Die?
Yeah.
Die My Love. Die My Love.
That's one where I enjoyed the film, but like it wasn't a favorite. I thought it was very interesting and very experimental. I thought there was a great performance, but it wasn't something where I was like, that really was like, that was the performance of a lifetime I've seen, or that was the film of the year. It just didn't quite hit that.
So who is then in this category?
I think, the one that, obviously we talked about Imogen, Renate Reinsve from Sentimental Value. That's
Sentimental Value is film. It's so good. I watched this in Bulgaria, but obviously they own 70% of the movies in Swedish. So I had Bulgarian subtitles, so therefore I didn't understand pretty much 70% of the movie, and I loved it. It's one of my favorite movies of last year because I just got immersed in the world and the storytelling. But I didn't. You can still pick it up, know. Yeah. But isn't that fascinating how film can do that? Very and good. I thought it was such a good film, even though I didn't understand 70% of it. Yeah. There you go. All right. Who else? Who else have
we got from our favourites? Let's have a look at the list. Oh yeah, I mean, look, my other one that I'm fairly disgusted hasn't got the BAFTA recognition that it should have done, which is probably my joint favourite film of the year, is Life of Chuck. I mean, Stephen King written, and it asks, I don't know, it just asks some of the biggest questions in life. I think it really does. It frames life and death and the roles that people have in your lives in the biggest possible way, and it just has some really, really brilliant cameos, performances. Tom Hiddleston's fantastic. I really, really liked Karen Gillan's performance in it, even though it's smaller. Yeah. And I just feel like that film deserves a lot more buzz than it is. And I think it's unfortunately the first things that tend to get smashed in the awards season is life-affirming, big epic stories, especially if they've got a little bit of a sci-fi edge. They sort of get, unless they're like cool sci-fi, quirky sci-fi, like
Everything Everywhere All at Once.
Yeah. Everything Everywhere All at Once. Like, unless it's like really like quirky, I feel like dramas and sci-fis, dramas with sci-fi elements often just get like immediately bashed, or anything that's sort of an all-encompassing sort of mega drama. And I do just think it's the feeling I had at the end of watching that film was like, I really was just like, wow, that is a gut punch of emotion and questioning what life's about. So
yeah. I think there's still going to be more movies that surprise us that we haven't heard about yet. They're just going to suddenly pop up. This kind of happens a lot, doesn't it? Where it's like, that's a totally new.
I mean, they will, but we're also like a month away, and I think the ones that are the contenders already.
Yeah, especially for the BAFTAs.
Like
I think
winners.
I think the big winners will be I Swear and Hamnet. I think 100% for the BAFTAs. I think like say the Oscars are definitely going to be Marty Supreme and One Battle After Another. So I think that's where we're at. I think it's exciting. I think BAFTAs, they've got a new system at the BAFTAs as well. So it's a jury for the nominations to ensure sort of diversity, I suppose. But the winners, it's still a popular vote. So the nominations come from a jury, but then the winners are everyone voting who's in the BAFTA pot, which is quite interesting, I think. All right, so looking at all this list here, why don't we put 10 quid on Imogen Poots sneaking in to get a BAFTA nom? Why not? We love this movie because Chronology of Water, and I know me and Don go on about this, but it's an incredible debut. It's not a movie. It's not just a movie. It's sort of an exorcism. And you know what? The BAFTAs and the Academy love to see an actor bleed for their art, and Imogen Poots has definitely opened a vein. But I, for me, I'd put my money on Paul Thomas Anderson. I finally think he's going to take home Best Picture. The industry always feels guilty about this sort of stuff. You look at DiCaprio in the past, or Scorsese in the past, or There Will Be Blood and The Master, where Paul Thomas Anderson movie are amazing, and you go, how did we not give it to him? And I think One Battle After Another is their chance.
I think it really could be that, but there's also a part of me that thinks Marty Supreme might just sneak in and take it. I don't know.
Yeah.
I think that those are the two. Like, I'd be pretty surprised if it wasn't one of those two.
I agree.
But then, you never know what's going to happen.
You never know. So keep an eye out for our guest, Hikari. Rental Family is the kind of movie that plays well at the end of the year. I think it's warm, and it's about connection. And when the sort of the voters, the BAFTA and the Oscar voters, are tired of voting for these 3-hour epics and depressing biopics, they might just vote for the movie that made them feel something, as Dom said at the very beginning. Then they should. Listen, that's our little sort of award season wrap up. What do we know? Nothing. We just like movies. We like making them, but we really love watching them. And that's it. Yeah, so thanks for listening to this week's episode of the Filmmakers Podcast. Rental Family's out now. Go watch, go support. Next Tuesday, we have on... Who do we have,
28
Dom?
weeks, 28 years later, Bone Temple.
Bone Temple. We have Nia DaCosta joining
We've got
us.
a bone
talking
to
about...
pick about the... No, we haven't really got a bone to pick. We can't enjoy the interview.
No, we haven't. It's amazing.
Although,
I loved it.
Okay, but we did have a cameo from her fantastic pooch, who definitely had a bone to pick. So there we go.
She did. Yes, a pooch joined us for the interview.
Which you can see in the
really
interview.
Cute.
So that's very exciting, yeah.
Very exciting. You can watch that.
You can see the dog brought onto the interview, dog on her lap, the dog being taken away, us trying to grab the dog.
I was trying to grab the dog, not being allowed. Absolutely. This one, Hikari, is also on our YouTube. Go on there and do go support. Subscribe. Just press the plus button so you always get it. So more people come our way, because it's hard for us to promote not only the podcast but the YouTube as well.
Yeah. So
do your best and support us. Go on your podcast of choice now and press the plus button. Do us a review. Go on YouTube. Write something nice. You would not believe the difference it can make to the algorithms. So if you listen to this even once or more than once, do support. Help us out. Also, Paul Schrader, the writer director of is the writer of Taxi Driver and it's the boxing one with... Why has it gone from my brain right now, just when I didn't want it to, with Robert De Niro?
De Niro to Zero.
No, the famous boxing movie with Robert De Niro.
Oh, Raging Bull.
Thank you. He wrote Raging Bull. He is back. He's directed a movie called Oh Canada, which is also out this week. So we're going to try and put that in on Friday for you. So look out for Paul Schrader, talking about writing and directing and the career in filmmaking. He's very honest. He tells some very honest stories, so it's brilliant for you lot to listen before the powers that be tell us to cut those stuff out. So have a listen as soon as you can to Paul Schrader. It's brilliant. Like Dom says, then we've got Nia DaCosta, the director of Candyman, talking about 20 years later, Bone Temple. And then we've got Gangster's Life. We've got Tony Cook and
Tony the
Zach
Tiger
Fanning coming on to talk about their indie film. And then we've got other guests coming on. We've got 1,000 Blows creators. We've got Corin Hardy coming on. And we've got The I Swear producers and directors, plus more, the Time Rewind guys as well, talking about how they made their indie film. So for now, be inspired, go out there, make your indie film, go make your big super natural horror film, make whatever you can, go win an Oscar next year. And if you are lucky to rise up, if you are lucky enough to I can't speak anymore, if you are lucky enough to rise up and do well, it is your duty to
send the Oscar back down.
Thank you. I'll put it on my shelf here. We will see you next Tuesday.
I've got one on my shelf.
I've got one too.
Yeah. You got to have it. You got to have your Oscar. I've actually got two.
You got. Look at you showing off.
From shout out to our friend in LA, Christy, who several years ago had an Oscar party that we all got invited to with Auntie Christina, casting director. And she got given jurisdiction of the Oscar because I left it, but I went over there about 2 years ago, and I finally got it back last week, my lovely twin Oscars. So, always nice to have that on the mantelpiece as a reminder of what to work towards.
Yes, of what could be and what could have been.
What will be.
Absolutely.
What will
be.
Yeah.
And what will be for you guys. I'm Giles Alderson.
I'm Dom Lenoir.
And we will see you next Tuesday. Go out and make your films. Make it happen. Bye.
Bye.